let's talk about the Knicks potentially winning the NBA Finals. Now, there was a general consensus, and I was among the general consensus, that whoever comes out the East, they're not going to win the championship. I think Boston was probably the best chance to beat the Oklahoma City Thunder or the San Antonio Spurs because of how good Boston is. Obviously, that's thrown out the window because they blew a 3-1 lead to the Philadelphia 76ers. But now it's just like I'm watching this New York team play, bro. They have the personnel, they have depth, and they have, and Dreamers Pro alluded to this in his live, that the New York Knicks are the number one defensive team in the playoffs. If y'all want some context, they are number one in points allowed at 101.2. The other four teams are the Houston Rockets, the Orlando Magic, the Boston Celtics, and the Detroit Pistons, or actually vice versa. The New York Knicks are the number one most efficient team in the playoffs, shooting 51% from the field as a team, almost 52%. The other four teams are the OKC Thunder, the Spurs, the Lakers, and the Toronto Raptors. I'm actually surprised Toronto's up here. And then when it comes to overall offense, they're the second best offense in the playoffs outside the Oklahoma City Thunder. And of course the San Antonio Spurs, who are at number 3. For some context, OKC is averaging 121 a game, the Knicks are averaging 119 a game, and the San Antonio Spurs are averaging 116 a game. You take all that into consideration and you put all that in a vacuum, they match up really well with these Western Conference teams. And they played well throughout the season against these teams, right? But if you guys want my honest take, I feel like they match up better with the Oklahoma City Thunder. The reason why I say that is because, and I said it in my last video too, no one can guard Wemby, sure. But I feel like when it comes to those big guards in San Antonio, there's no one to really hide Jalen Brunson on. You know what I mean? Because Stephon Castle can attack him. Devin Vassell is an off-ball threat. Dylan Harper is a big physical guard. You can't really shield him on him. You can't really shield Brunson against the Spurs. Against the OKC Thunder, they match a lot of their depth and scoring. We're seeing what we're seeing from Jared McCain and obviously AJ Mitchell, who has been more of a starter. And obviously J-Dub being out for the rest of the playoffs potentially because of that hamstring. It's going to loom large against the OKC Thunder, because he's arguably their second best player when he's healthy. And also, the bigs can match up well with the OKC bigs. OG Anunoby and Karl Anthony Towns can match up really well with Isaiah Hartenstein. And you also want to know something? There were points in the series between them and the San Antonio Spurs where the OKC Thunder had to guard a 5-out offense because of how good Victor Wembanyama is. Could it help a lot more if Victor Wembanyama gets closer to the basket? Sure. You can also say that's on Mitch Johnson as well. Because it's just like you're having Wemby stand out on the perimeter when he should really be close to the basket. You know what I mean? But when they do play 5-out, I do sense that the Thunder struggle with that. They struggle with that in last year's finals versus the Indiana Pacers. And this Knicks team that we're seeing right now is 100 times better than obviously their team last year, but they're better than the Pacers. So if that Pacer team can take the OKC Thunder to 7 games, and we've seen some noticeable struggles with them trying to guard a 5-out offense, I feel like the Knicks have a decent shot to beat the OKC Thunder. I'm starting to believe that, bro. And yeah, you could say it's like recency bias as well, because of the fact that, okay, yeah, they did lose a couple games to the Atlanta Hawks in the first round, but they've won 10 in a row since then. They have not lost a game in a month. For a reason. And yeah, y'all can say that, oh man, it's the Eastern Conference, bro. Why are you hyping this thing? Bro, it don't matter if it's the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference. You're taking care of your business when you should. The San Antonio Spurs took care of their business when they should. OKC Thunder took care of their business against the Phoenix Suns and the LA Lakers in the first 2 rounds. I would love to see San Antonio in the finals. Wemby and the Knicks would generate as much views, if not possibly more, than OKC and San Antonio. But at the same time, if we're just talking about matchups, the Knicks match up better with OKC. Because remember, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and OG Anunoby, I feel like they can guard Shea. And here's the thing, too. Everyone talks about his flopping, right? And yes, SGA does flop. Even Thunder fans admit that SGA does flop. He's going to meet his maker in Jalen Brunson because people have docked Jalen Brunson for flopping. So it's just like, you know what? You've met your match. And you know what? There are players in OKC that you can hide Jalen Brunson on. You can hide him on Case and Wallace, even though Case and Wallace is becoming a little better when it comes to his own shot creation. But you can definitely hide him on Lou Dort because Dort is not really much of a shot creator. You can have OG on Chet, or you have Karl Towns on Isaiah Hartenstein. Again, we've seen some noticeable struggles with them trying to guard a 5-out offense, and the Knicks have a 5-out offense. The Knicks are a fast-paced team, and the Knicks have a lot of depth to match the depth of the OKC Thunder. And yes, OKC has the best bench in the NBA, but the New York Knicks, they're not too far off. I mean, look, Landry Shamet has started a few games here and there for the Clippers and the Brooklyn Nets and parts of the Phoenix Suns, right? Jose Alvarado is a really good bench player. Deuce McBride has been a starter for a good amount of this year because of guys, I think it was OG Anunoby being hurt, if I'm not mistaken. Deuce McBride's a starter. You know what I mean? Jordan Clarkson, even though he's never been a starter in his career, I feel like he's only had like a handful of games where he has started. You know, the Knicks have a lot of talent. And I think they match up really well with OKC. I really do think that. And if you guys were to ask me who would win the finals between the New York Knicks and the OKC Thunder, I'm taking the Knicks in probably 6 games. Because, again, they match up really well with them. Jalen Brunson is as cold of a closer as Shai Gilgeous, man. And I think he's a little more efficient than SGA. I used to think SGA was probably one of the more efficient players in the league, but seeing him in the playoffs and seeing Brunson in the playoffs, I might have to hand that up to Brunson, man. And I have praised OKC for being a defensively disciplined team. Obviously, they do a lot of dirty stuff. I'm not going to deny that. They do get away with a lot of dirty things on the defensive end. But at the same time, doesn't take away from the fact that they are a defensively disciplined team. But what I love about the Knicks is that they are the exact same way. Mikal Bridges, he's a very disciplined defender. We've seen it with the Phoenix Suns next to Devin Booker and Chris Paul, and we've seen it last year in parts of the Celtics and the Pistons series and a couple of games in the Pacers series as well. OG Anunoby, another one who's a disciplined defender. Josh Hart, he can match the effort and energy and the grittiness that Lou Dort plays with, right? So when you add all those things up, how could you not pick the Knicks to upset the OKC Thunder? Because going into the finals, they are going to be the underdog. They're going to be the underdog no matter who they face. But I feel like that's what makes the New York Knicks also dangerous, because whenever you try to count this team out, and I low-key counted them out in the Boston series last year in the second round, it's just like, man, you can't really count these boys out. Even if you're up 20, even if you're up 15, these guys are always going to fight their way back. They fought their way back down 20 in the first 2 games of the Boston series. In the second round, they fought down 20 in Game 3 of last year's conference finals versus the Indiana Pacers. We saw it in Game 1 of this series versus the Cavaliers. So even if OKC has a decent lead, you got to hold your breath, because it's just like, no matter how up you are in the game, the Knicks and the Thunder always find ways to win and grind things out, bro. I feel like we're going to see a Knicks-Thunder finals, and I feel like the Knicks have the best chance to win against that team because they are evenly matched. A lot of people are not looking at it that way, but I'm one of the few people. I think Dreamers Pro and Run Back Philly feel the same way as well. They match up really well with the OKC Thunder. Not so much the San Antonio Spurs, because they got a lot of shot creation, and no one can really match up against Wemby. But I don't know, man. I guess we're going to have to see. We're just going to have to let the games play out. And I'm obviously excited for this year's NBA Finals. A little more excited than it was last year, even though last year's Finals were really, really good. It's just that it was undercut by the Tyrese Halliburton injury. I don't think the Pacers would have won. I still think the OKC Thunder would have won regardless. But I think we were robbed of an epic all-time duel between SGA and Halliburton. What do you guys think? Do you guys think the Knicks win the finals? Whatever y'all thoughts are, please leave them in the comments below. That's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces. Go New York! Go New York! Oh, man. Yeah, I'm going to stop recording there. Peace. Love y'all.